try to run a blast search. Now remember, in theory, I can just run a blast search right on the login node itself, which would be a bad thing, because if 20 of us now start blast searches on the login node, we're going to load the login node pretty quickly. So that's the reason, always remember to Vsub your job. So this is where we're going to start using LSF. We are going to pipe our job through the load sharing facility. So Vsub, Vsub is the LSF command that we learned for submitting the jobs. So batch submission, Vsub sort of short for batch submission. So what we are telling the system is, instead of running the job on the login node itself, send my job through the load sharing facility by using Vsub as the first command we are using. So I'm saying Vsub. The next thing I'm going to say is blat. Now, before we actually run the program, I could specify a specific queue. So Vsub program itself will take different options. So I can specify a specific queue to run this job in by saying Vsub queue hour, for example. If I know what queue I want to run that job in. Now, generally, you will not have to specify a specific queue, because if you don't specify one, the jobs are automatically going to run in the weak queue, which is what I think we want. So you could specify a specific queue or leave that off altogether. That's generally going to work fine. But I just wanted to mention that it is possible to submit jobs to a specific queue if you have access to that queue, obviously. If you do not have access to that queue, you will basically just get an error.
What if your boss submits something to the hour queue and takes like a day?
If that happens, if your job is able to finish within the hour, you will still get output. But as soon as it goes 60 minutes and 1 second, your job is going to get killed, basically. So once you hit what's called the wall clock time, it's going to hard stop your job once you exceed the length of the queue you submitted it to. That's why generally letting the jobs go to the week queue is safe, because that's sort of the default queue, or I don't remember if it's the day queue or the week queue. But most of the things you're going to be probably doing on the system, that default queue will be fine. So you don't have to specify a specific queue. So I'm going to run the blat job now. You don't have to do this. Let me just show you that this is the listing of the files I have. I'm going to Vsub a blat job and db_prot. Remember, the first file you specify is going to be used as your database. And this is where your tab complete will again come in handy. The second file I specify will be used as my query. So I'm using a single protein sequence that is present in the test file, and I'm using it to search against the db_prot file, which has several protein sequences in it. And as I said, we are going to specify, if we don't specify a -out, so this is how you will specify the output program, output format that you are interested in. So let's say if you are interested in the BLAST-like output format, we are going to say -out equals BLAST, which tells the blat program that you are interested in getting your output in BLAST-like format. If I don't specify a specific -out program, just like the defaults we've learned for module system, PSL format is the default for blat. So blat will automatically produce output in this format if you don't specify a different format. Since we want to look at what the PSL format looks like, let's go ahead and run our first blat job, leaving the output format as the default PSL format. And I'm going, the last thing is the output file name that you want to specify. And this is pretty free form. You can specify whatever you want. I'm just going to say that output blat.psl. Since this is a Unix system, it doesn't really care about what extension you use. The .psl doesn't really mean anything specific to Unix. If you are going to subsequently use this file on the PC or Mac, you might want to pay attention to what file extension you use. So at this point, we have the minimum information ready to run our first job. We are running our job through LSF. We are running a BLAT search. This is our database. This is our query file. And we are going to put the output into this file. So at this point, you should go ahead and press return. And if your job is submitted properly, then you will get a job ID. So this is always a numeric identifier. And by the way, the default queue on this system is days. So if you knew that your job was going to run longer than a day, you would want to specify -q week, for example, so that it runs in the longer queue. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is by default, there is a memory limit on that is enforced on the kill devil cluster for your jobs. So if you were running a job that requires more than 4 gigs of RAM, and we'll learn this in the blast search we will try next, we'll have to explicitly specify a larger memory limit. But if you don't, then just as with other things, a default 4 gigs of RAM is allocated for your job. If your job exceeds the 4 gig limit, it will be killed, even though you may be still within. And again, these are things that the administrators have to keep in place, because remember, thousands of people are using this machine, as you've already seen, that there are several hundred jobs running at the same time. And you obviously don't want to bring the cluster down or bring a node down by doing something that's not within the norms.
Can you just figure that out by trial and error, or is there a way to predict how much?
If it's a program that you are trying for the first time and you're not sure, I would just run it with the default 4 gigs. There's no, I mean, you could go ahead and ask for more RAM upfront, but if it's not really needed, you don't really need to ask for it. But if the job fails this way, you can certainly go back and ask for more RAM. So if I do B jobs, that job already has finished, at least for me. Well, let's hope the job has finished, because there isn't anything in my B jobs listing. So either the job could have failed or it produced an output. So if I do a long listing, oh yes, indeed the job seems to have worked, because I do have a file. Doesn't mean it's the right file, but there's a file, and it's not a 0-byte file, which is always a good thing. So how do we look at the contents of this file? How do we look at what is in this file?